Americans in this
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
And what I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with black blood?
yes.
Right? And the fact that you don't recognize that shows you how much you take this for granted and how much you don't care about the future. Because
Yes.
if you understood this, you would be grateful for their sacrifice and understand what they have gone through for you to have rights.
Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. I hope wherever you're watching, you're having a good time. Now, we have also seen in recent years Asian Americans coming to defense of black people. We have had many instances where some Asian Americans had worst things to say about blacks, but in recent years there is this pushback where some Asian Americans are disagreeing with other members of their community who tend to show disrespect to black people. And this is in realization of the challenges that black people have gone through and the place black people hold in the American history. You know, if it is about suffering as a minority group in America, I can tell you that blacks have been the people who have gone through the worst kind of experiences ever. They built America without getting any pay. They facilitated the agrarian and the industrial revolution that has made America become the leading country in the League of Nations. And that is a very, very serious issue that I think it shouldn't just be looked at as a thing that can be wished away. Black people have contributed quite immensely in the innovation journey of America. And this is also another issue that many people tend to disagree or disregard in many instances. So Asian Americans are coming out and saying that from this time henceforth, we are not going to disrespect blacks. They have contributed immensely in making America get civilization that it has, and therefore we have to appreciate their history and their role in everything that has happened in America. So I came across some of these clips that I've compiled. I want you to watch, listen to them keenly to the end, and I shall come back with my commentaries. Let's watch, and I'll be back.
The Asian community is literally so anti-black, and it literally fucking pisses me off. Like, we are literally so uneducated, uninformed, just misinformed, everything about the black community, and it pisses me off. And, like, it just boggles my mind how a lot of Asians see black people as beneath them. I shit you not, I literally saw someone on my story, and I literally was so gagged. Like, I was like, are you serious right now? And I sent him a message, ask him if he's being serious about this. This guy is Bhutanese. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. But, like, I guess he got, like, some kind of spray tan or whatever because he's doing some kind of stupid movie shoot or whatever. Roy posts on his story and says, because his skin is, like, 10 shades darker or something, he said, "Can I say the N-word now?" with a ninja emoji next to it. I slid up so fucking quick and I asked this man, are you fucking serious right now? And guess what? That man left me on red. Need I say again that he is not black? He is Bhutanese from Bhutan or whatever the fuck you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Quite honestly, like, the Asian community is literally so underhandedly racist to the black community, and it just, like, not to mention the black community is one of the most supportive of marginalized groups that has ever, like, uplifted the Asian community and actually put effort into supporting us. I'm probably gonna piss a lot of Asians off for saying that, but it's literally the truth, and I fucking see it for what it is.
So I've talked about how foreign people of color are jealous of the perceived privileges that Black American people have. And based on the feedback in my comments from Black American people, I would like to add some key details to that discussion. The biggest takeaway that I observed from the feedback in that video from Black American people is that foreign people of color absolutely refuse to accept and acknowledge the price that Black people had to pay to have these liberties and privileges. And it's a price that Black American people still pay today. It's a price that was paid in blood, bones, backs, muscles, joints, autonomy, freedom, etc. See, what I've observed being a foreigner myself and being raised in a foreign family, what I've observed is that foreigners are in this like silent one-way competition with Black American people as to who is oppressed more. And it's very much like oppression Olympics. Yeah, well, you have that stuff going on in your country. In my country, we have XYZ. In my country, our politicians are all corrupt. In my country, we have famines. In my country, etc., etc. It's like this routine dismissal of the price that Black Americans have to pay to be American. As so many of the commenters in that video pointed out, being Black in America has not been a cakewalk, for lack of a better phrase. It hasn't been something easy. And something else that Black American people also pointed out is that foreigners can choose to migrate to America and move to America because foreign people of color, we have autonomy, we have agency in being able to choose where we live and where we call home. For Black American people, historically, that choice was robbed from them. It was deprived from them because imperial powers traveled to the continent of Africa, kidnapped African individuals by violence and by force, trafficked them to the Americas, and then forced them into chattel slavery for hundreds of years. Like, we cannot underestimate the centuries that Black American people spent as enslaved property in the eyes of the law. Then after that chattel slavery was over, Black Americans then had to spend a subsequent, 2 centuries under Jim Crow and segregation laws still being viewed as inhumane property. Can we please remember that Black American people did not have the right to vote in elections until the 1960s? 1964 specifically. My mother was born in 1966, just for reference, and I'm a 31-year-old millennial. Thank you to all of the commenters who provided that feedback in that video, and please forgive me, the only reason I didn't include these important pieces in my discussion was just for time constraints. But yeah, foreign people of color are envious of Black Americans and absolutely, by the same token, refuse to acknowledge the price that Black Americans have had to pay to live in America, and it's a price that they still have to pay. And also refuse to acknowledge that yes, although we come to America and experience xenophobia, we had agency and we had autonomy and the power of choice in coming to America. That was a privilege that was ultimately deprived from Black Americans. If it were up to Black Americans, they would not have come to America. Again, they were kidnapped by violent imperial powers and then forced into centuries of chattel slavery by force, by violence. All agency, all autonomy, all choice was removed from them. So of course, Black Americans are going to watch foreign people of color come here and get to live in post-Jim Crow, post-segregation America, post-chattel slavery America, and then get to claim, oh yeah, America is this great land of milk and honey, has all these wonderful opportunities that I don't have in my home country. And Black Americans, they don't take advantage of those opportunities. Because let's keep it real, with the existing anti-blackness that, pervades every society on the planet, foreign people of color thus come to America and view Black Americans as lazy and thuggish for not taking advantage of all the opportunities that exist in America. Well, yeah, we can come to America and immigrate to America in the 90s and the early 2000s and say, yeah, there are opportunities, because we weren't subject to the centuries of oppression that Black Americans were subject to. Yes, our ancestors in our home countries were subject to it, but our ancestors didn't do anything about that oppression, which is why we had to leave our home countries. Black Americans here in America did, and that's why we have freedoms, because of Black Americans. And that's why you see so many foreign people of color feel perfectly comfortable fixing their lips and talking down on Black Americans, because I don't know if the psychology of it, like I've talked to my own family about this, like, is it that you view yourself as white? Is it that you view yourself as, now that you're American, you can oppress someone else, and whom you choose to oppress is Black people? Because as I've observed, foreign people of color never have this energy for the actual white systemic structures and institutions that actually oppress all of us. Foreign people of color, like I've said before, also envy the fact that Black Americans protest and boycott and speak up and fight and advocate in ways that foreign people of color don't do in our own home countries, and then come here and have the audacity to speak out the side of their necks towards Black Americans as if, like, what, you think you're white in this structure? You think you're white in this system? Because I can assure you, we're not. So if you are a foreign person of color living in America who emigrated here, or you're the children or grandchildren of immigrants, please understand and accept quickly that the only reason we were able to have the agency or the autonomy to even migrate to America in the first place is solely because of the work of Black Americans. And Black Americans living in America are American in name only. I can assure you the privileges and the liberties that we wax poetic about, do not exist for most Black Americans and have not existed for Black Americans for centuries.
I've never answered a question like this before, and it cuts me up. Like, what did they have to tell you to make you hate us? So in Asian families, especially immigrant Asian families, we have our own version of a race talk. Mine was a Chinese family, and in our house, the talk sounded like soft racism, not like eugenics. There was never any insulting of Black intelligence or Black abilities or Black people. It was more practical than that. And it was all about safety. If you want to be safe, you have to align yourself with power. And if you want a piece of the American dream, you need to follow the money, follow the power, and that meant following the white brick road. My dad told me that I could marry a white man or a Chinese man, but preferably a white man and not a Black man. So what's unspoken there is that Asian men don't have much power either, and Black men have less, but white men have all the power. And me as an Asian girl had no power at all, that all of my power depended on a man. So it's not just soft racism, it's also soft sexism. And that is the model minority brainwash in a nutshell. It is based on a terrible dark side of the American dream that is anti-blackness. It cuts me to the core.
Let's have the conversation that people love to sidestep, because anti-blackness does not just come from white folks, and it for sure did not just appear out of nowhere. And if we're serious about solidarity, we have to trace where it actually started. Now, first thing, this is not about all Asian communities. That's lazy, and I am not lazy. But when we talk about patterns, we're talking about systems. And the system made sure that anti-blackness wasn't just exported, it was globalized. See, when European powers colonized Asia, they didn't just take the land, they also imported hierarchy. They pushed the idea that lighter skin meant civility, wealth, purity, and darker skin was poverty, backwardness, and danger. And that colonial script seeped deep, from India to the Philippines, all the way to Japan. Skin tone became the ladder, and whiteness was always at the top. If we fast forward to Asian immigration in the US, you arrive in a country that's already built on anti-blackness, already criminalizing Black life. And what do politicians do? They dangle a deal. If you distance yourself from Black people, we'll give you a seat closer to whiteness. And that's where the model minority myth comes in. It was never a compliment. It was always a weapon. The government used it in the 1960s to say, hey, look at these Asian immigrants. They work hard. They follow the rules. Why can't Black folks do the same? And that's when it turns survival into separation. And here's the ugly truth. Some communities actually leaned into it, right? Because if your family's safety, your visa, your livelihood depends on being seen as the good immigrant, you'll play the role, even if it means stepping on Black people to do it. But don't get it twisted. This was not organic hate. It was policy. It was propaganda. And it worked because it kept us divided while white supremacy stayed in power. So when we talk about Asian anti-Blackness today, whether it shows up in colorism, anti-Black policing in Asian-owned shops, or even silence around Black death, we've got to understand that it didn't just fall from the sky. It was planted by colonizers, by governments, by systems that profit when we fight each other and not them. And until we name that history, we are not building solidarity. We're just repeating the cycle. And I, for one, refuse to keep the cycle quiet.
Thank you to this creator for speaking on this, and dear Asian Americans, we need to be talking about anti-Blackness within our community. Hi, my name is Dr. Yi, I'm a psychology professor, and in my research, I have found that anti-Blackness is pervasive among Asian Americans, especially when they internalize the model minority myth. When Asian Americans adopt this belief that their racial group is superior to other racial groups because they have stronger cultural values in hard work and success, it's correlated to greater explicitly negative attitudes towards Black Americans. And echoing what this creator shared, this pitting of minorities against one another, this narrative that Asian Americans just pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and have the right cultural values and hard work to succeed. That narrative has been really internalized within our community and has hindered solidarity to promote greater racial justice for us all. And in my other research, I've done in-depth interviews with Asian Americans to really explore how the model minority myth shapes these beliefs, and particularly serves as a barrier to engaging in activism. So dear Asian Americans, let's break this cycle of silence about anti-blackness within our community. We can use what privilege we have to engage in protests and rallies, but also in smaller spaces like speaking up in your family when there's an anti-black comment made. Let's hold ourselves accountable to the ways that we're perpetuating systems of oppression, because nobody's free until everybody's free. Follow for more Asian American psych from a professor.
Hi friends, I hadn't planned on making another video right now, but Indian people are coming for me in my comments. And, so I know I'm on the right track with what I'm saying. But what I want to talk about in this specific video is Indian people and anti-Black racism specifically. So whether this is within the country of India, or whether this is when Indian people immigrate to any part of the world, whether it be on the African continent, in North America, South America, wherever, Indian people have, and again, I'm not saying every single Indian person, but I'm talking about Indian people generally, our society, our culture, the belief systems that Indian people hold, etc. Indian people are extremely, extremely racist, especially towards Black people. And if you take a Black person who has been around Indian people for any period of time, Black people pick up on this. It's something that is, this is not a secret. Whether you're talking to, say African students who study in India, which there are African students who are there, or whether you're talking about, say, Kenyans. There's a large population of Kenya that are Indian people that have immigrated to that country, or South Africa, or Canada, or, the United States, whatever. But Black people pick up on Indian people's racism because it is quite apparent. It's something that that is there. It's obvious. So I'm just going to give you an example of me, my family, and the Indian people in South Africa. When I grew up there, I spent the first 12 years of my life under apartheid. So we had servants, maids, cooks, gardeners, etc. And all of these people were Africans. They were Black people. And all of the Indians in South Africa had servants. Okay, they were all Black. Now, how were these servants treated? They were treated as subhuman. They were not considered to be human beings with feelings. They drank out of different cups. So Indian people would not share their table with the servants, who were an integral part of their household. They took care of their children. They drove them everywhere. They cooked for them. But they had to eat off of separate dishes. They could not sit on the furniture. They, say for example, when we left our home and we traveled, so we lived in Pietermaritzburg, we traveled to Durban on the weekends, holidays, whatever. Our maid would come with us. She was not allowed to sleep on or sit on our furniture or sleep on our furniture, so she had to sleep on the floor. These are things that all Indian people did in South Africa. And now I'm just talking about South Africa. I'm not talking about, say, when Indian people immigrate to other countries. But this is true even in first generation Indians. Because say if an Indian person had to marry a Black person, 9 times out of 10, that Indian person's family is going to completely disown the Indian person who married a Black person. Now, Indian people generally, they want Indian people to marry within they want Indian people to marry other Indian people, and then they even go into they want, the same caste, and they even have subcastes and all of this stuff. So, but if an Indian person marries a white person, or say an Asian person, it's not considered to be as heinous of an act as if an Indian person married a Black person. So this can be tied to the caste system because, like I mentioned in my previous video, Indian people are racist towards other Indian people. And some of this is based on skin color. It's not entirely based on skin color, but there is a factor that is, that is apparent in that. So Ava DuVernay made a movie called Origin, and it's based on Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste, which somebody just pointed out. And it's very difficult for me to talk about these very heavy topics in 10 minutes. So I can't cover everything, but Indian people are inherently racist as a culture and as a society. And then within that racism, there is a hierarchy. So yes, while an Indian society might be racist towards Western people, Western culture, white people, etc., just like Vivek Ramaswamy making that comment about how, he made all these disparaging comments about, Americans. And he was talking about white Americans, how they're not as smart and blah, blah, blah. These are not uncommon things that Indian people say within themselves. I have been privy to these conversations in whether it's, say a friend situation or families or extended families or just in my Indian community. These are very common beliefs that most all Indian people will espouse. They will say things like, well, white people have no culture. Their food is horrible. They just go on and on and on. But when it comes to Black people specifically, Indian people have extremely racist views about Black people. And it doesn't matter how nice this Black person is, how educated they might be. None of those things matter. And that's why I say that a lot of Indian people, they align themselves with a very far right-wing kind of Trump ideology. So you might take somebody from, say, America who is a Trumpster, and they espouse all these very racist views. And you could take an Indian person, and in many respects, those views are going to align because Indian people generally tend to hold very racist views. It goes back to the caste system, yes, but it also ties into other aspects because, as I pointed out before, there are the so-called untouchables in India, and Indian people are racist towards them as well. So this is all a very, these are complicated things, and I'm just trying to do my best to share these ideas because we are in terrible times right now in the United States and in the world generally. So I guess Indian people, if you guys want to come for me, come for me. I am not saying anything that's untrue. This is the truth, and I think it's kind of an open secret.
As an Asian American, I'm often asked, why do I focus so much on the advocacy work of Black Americans? And it is because their advocacy work is always inclusive. The Black Civil Rights Movement did not just benefit Black people, it benefited all marginalized people, and it is the reason why I, as an Asian American, have civil rights. Also, throughout Asian American history, Black Americans have consistently held space for including us in their advocacy work. From the increase in anti-Asian violence in 2020 and 2021, to looking out for Japanese Americans during World War II. Going all the way back to 1869 when Frederick Douglass delivered a speech arguing that Chinese should be allowed to immigrate and become citizens. He didn't only want to advocate for the United States becoming a home for Black and brown people, he said, "I want the Asiatic to find a home here in the United States and feel at home here, both for his sake and for ours. Right wrongs, no man." The voice of civilization speaks an unmistakable language against the isolation of families, nations, and races, and pleads for composite nationality as essential to her triumphs. Man is man the world over. This fact is affirmed and admitted in any effort to deny it. The sentiments we exhibit, whether love or hate, confidence or fear, respect or contempt, will always imply a like humanity. if our action shall be in accordance with the principles of justice, liberty, and perfect human equality, no eloquence can adequately portray the greatness and grandeur of the future. My granduncle, who was nicknamed Uncle Abin, was actually named Abraham Lincoln because my great-granduncle was raised in the United States and he respected President Lincoln, whom he had been taught abolished slavery. Of course, he didn't stay in the United States because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, but I have to wonder if he had known about Frederick Douglass's speech, would I instead have had an Uncle Fred? The reason why I, as an Asian American, focus so much on the advocacy work of Black Americans is because theirs is the work that I would like to model mine after.
There has never been Asian and Black solidarity during protests. What are you talking about? Okay, then give me one example of Black people showing solidarity to Asian people. Easy, there's so many examples. Let's take riots in Harlem in 1943. Okay, tell me. Alright. So there were riots that occurred in Harlem, and they were set off when the police officer shot an African-American soldier because he was trying to intervene when police was trying to arrest an African-American woman. What was she arrested for? Disturbing peace. What? During that year, there were multiple riots across the country, and the government was trying to suppress them, as usual. New York City was already suffering from the increasing cost because of the war, and Harlem, which was predominantly Black, was hit especially hard. People were faced with a lot of discrimination, and the police was harassing them a lot. Okay, so what happened during the Harlem riots? After the soldier was shot and wounded, the soldier died. As you can imagine, people were very upset. That sounds familiar. Of course, people went to protest, and some of the rioters were looting the stores and smashing the windows and battling the police. And one of the men that was part of the riots went by the name of Malcolm Little. Malcolm Little? Yes, we know him today by the name of Malcolm X. So in his biography, he noted that a lot of the Black store owners put signs on their stores to identify themselves, and most of their stores were left untouched. So all other stores were primary targets then? Malcolm X remembers that there was one Chinese store that was left untouched by the rioters as well. He said that when they saw his store, they were laughing so hard, and then they moved on and didn't lay a hand on it. Really? Why? That is because the Chinese store owner hastily left a sign on his front door that said, "Me colored too."
I've been seeing a lot more content about Black and Asian solidarity, so I wanted to share my story. Before I was embraced by Asian folks, I found a sense of belonging in the Black community first. It's where I learned about brotherhood and camaraderie, and also how to rap. And even now, as someone who's unapologetically Asian as fuck, my love and respect remains the same. Because honestly, if the Black community in Atlanta didn't support me and encourage me to rap when I was a teen, I probably wouldn't be an artist right now. By the way, these type of cultural exchanges have been happening way before me, and it's more common than you think. So don't let social media make you think we're all against each other.
Hello guys. Yes, welcome back to the channel. I like what some of those Asian Americans have said because you have to give credit where it's due. Black people have made significant contributions to the American government, to the America as a nation, and that must be recognized. It is not lost on anybody that blacks are the ones who built the America that we see today. Various institutions, various infrastructure, various economic steps that were made when Black people contributed immensely through free labor that has never been paid. In fact, in some instances, Blacks have talked about why they need reparations, but it seems others think that this is a free money that Blacks need not to get. So I am looking at this and I really like how Asian Americans are coming along. They're appreciating the resilience among Black people, and this is a good sign when allyship is built instead of having continuous confrontations within communities of people who are minority in America. So this coming together is very necessary for them to fight on common causes and achieve desirable results, as everybody is tapping on the diversity from each community, and that is what is needed. In recent years, many Asian Americans have begun openly criticizing members of their own communities who express anti-Black sentiments or engage in behavior that disrespect Black people. This pushback comes from a recognition that racism against Black Americans has deep historical roots, and that silence or complicity from Asian communities only reinforces systemic injustice. Younger generations in particular are using social media and activism to call out prejudiced attitudes among their families and communities, insisting that solidarity, not separation, is the way forward. This self-critique stems from awareness of model minority myth, the stereotype that Asian Americans are hardworking, quiet, and successful, unlike the negative stereotypes historically imposed on Black Americans. While this myth may seem flattering, it has long been used to white institutions to drive a wedge between minority groups and to minimize the impact of racism. Many Asian Americans now understand that accepting this narrative harms both communities by fostering divisions and obscuring the shared struggle against discrimination. The movement for allyship gained momentum after high-profile cases of police violence against Black people, such as the murder of George Floyd. During this time, some Asian Americans were confronted with the role individuals from their own communities played in upholding injustice. For example, the involvement of an Asian police officer who stood by during Floyd's killing. This moment sparked deep reflection and public reckoning within Asian circles about what solidarity truly means and how silence can equal complicity. In response, community leaders, educators, and activists have urged Asian Americans to engage in honest conversations about anti-blackness, whether in family discussions, ethnic media, or cultural spaces. They are emphasizing education about Black history and the civil rights movement, periods during which Black leaders fought for rights that also benefited Asian immigrants. By confronting prejudices internally, these Asian Americans hope to build mutual respect and understanding rather than continuous cycles of blame or cultural isolation. Ultimately, the goal is not to erase differences, but to create authentic alliances rooted in empathy and shared struggle. Asian Americans calling out racism within their communities are choosing to align themselves with broader movements for racial justice. They see this as essential for dismantling systems that harm all marginalized people. The new generation of activists envisions a future where solidarity replaces suspicion, a future where both Black and Asian Americans stand together against oppression rather than apart in misunderstanding. That is what is needed. Where you cannot have your way, you need to join up together and fight a common enemy that is bedeviling your existence within a society. And that is why you find that Asian Americans currently are openly coming out and saying that for those within their communities who are disrespecting Black people, they will not agree with them. And they're calling them out upfront because they have seen what racism can do to our people. They have seen how disrespect to a group of people is not necessarily something that can be celebrated, but it is something that must be talked about in a way that makes this group of people get respected. So share your thoughts down in the comment section. If you're watching us for the first time, remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share. Thank you, and let's meet on the next one.